Hello everyone and welcome to this new video. In this video I'm going to give you an exercise with everything we've seen so far. Indeed, all your knowledge will be required in order to succeed in this exercise. The exercise will be as follows. You will have to create a program that will calculate the factorial of a number entered by a user. If, for example, I enter 5, the program will display 120. And if you don't know what a factorial is the way to write the product of all positive integers less than or equal to an n number. For example, for the number 5, this will be 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5. So you need to create a program that will ask the user for a number, and then the program will calculate the factorial of the number entered by the user and will display it afterwards. On the other hand, there is a condition if we want a larger factorial. We will have to use a long type because we go out of the int range, and here I want you to work on the conditions too. So if the user enters a number less than or equal to 31, then the factorial is displayed otherwise. The number is too big, we will leave the int. In short, you need to ask a number to the user. Be careful here, there will be a small particularity to you to guess. Then you will create a program which will get this number and will calculate the factorial. And finally, if the user enters a number less than or equal to 31, then the factorial will be displayed. Otherwise, the number is too big, so it's up to you. I hope that I've been understandable enough and that you will succeed. I have no doubt that it is very simple. Don't hesitate to go over the old videos. If there are some notions you don't remember, pause the video and see you right after for the correction. I hope you have succeeded. If not, please pay attention to the correction. The first step was to ask the user to enter a number. Add quotation marks and write, what number do you want the factorial of? And don't forget the semicolon. Now remember that to interact with the user, there is a function that allows us to do so. Indeed, the console.readline function will allow you to retrieve what the user will enter. So here we are going to create a string variable because the console.readline function only returns strings. Then we will name it user_number, for example, and assign it the console.readline function to it. Here, the user_number variable is going to store what the user will enter in order to be able to reuse it just afterwards in our program. On the other hand, you should be careful. Indeed, here we have a string type number, and we can do any operation on a string. So what do we have to do to use this variable? Well, we have to convert our string variable into an int variable. We're going to create an int variable that we'll name conversion. And do you remember the function that allows us to convert a string into an int? It's int.parse. And in the parentheses, we will put our string variable. So now we've converted to int, and we've stored the number that the user has entered in the conversion variable. Now let's go to the heart of the program. As I previously said, we were going to calculate a factorial. I have already said that a factorial is the way to write the product of all the positive integers less than or equal to an n number. The numbers must be included between the number 1 and the number that we have entered. Then we have given the same example that for 5 will give 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5. As you can see, these multiplications are repeated several times. What do you think of when we say several times? 2 loops, exactly. So here we are going to create a for loop that will allow us to make the product of all the integers in order to obtain the factorial, as in the example of 5 above. First of all, we will create a factorial variable which will be initialized to 1, because the factorial must be between 1 and the given number. And logically, if we make the product with a 0, the result will be constantly 0. So now we will type 4, and in parentheses, we will create an I variable initialized to 1. It will allow us to make the product at each turn of the loop, so we need to initialize it to 1. To continue, you need to give the condition, which here is as long as I is less than or equal to the number given by the user, we can execute the statement. Here, as we initialize the I to 1, we will lose a turn because usually we initialize it to 0. And the product also includes the number that the user enters, so the condition must include when the loop reaches this number and must execute the instructions. Then we need to put an equal sign in addition to the lower. We will finish by incrementing the I at each turn of the loop, so here I++. And in the 4 braces, we will put the following operation. We will write factorial is equal to factorial, an asterisk, I and semicolon. I will explain. Here, we will store the factorial of 2 numbers to get the same thing as the example with the number 5, because the I increases at every turn. To reach the condition, as long as I is less than or equal to the number given by the user, if the user enters 5 at the first turn, it will be a factorial, asterisk I, so 1 times 1, and we will store it in factorial. Then for the second turn, I is incremented so the product will change, so 1 times 2, so we'll store 2 in factorial. At turn 3, it will be 2 times 3, because the factorial is worth 2, and I is worth 3, so we will store 6, and so on, until the condition put in the 4 is fulfilled. And we will have at the end of this loop, the factorial of the number entered by the user stored in the factorial variable. Now let's go to the display. I had imposed the condition it was to display the factorial only if the number entered by the user was lower or equal to 31. Indeed, I could have used another type to manage the extra, but I wanted to make you work as many notions as possible in this exercise. That's why I limited it to 31 to be able to stay in the int range. So what did you have to do? You had to write if and put the following condition. Conversion is less than or equal to 31 in parentheses. And in the braces, you can display the factorial as you want. But I want you to use all the notions. I'm going to write console.writeLine in parentheses. Do you remember that there is a function that allows us to avoid some errors in the display? It is the string.format function. Well, I'm going to use it in console.writeLine. Type string.format in parentheses. The first parameter was a string format. So I'm going to add the factorial and get the number that the user has entered. So I will put braces with a 0 inside, and here braces with a 1 inside to display the factorial, and then the variables user underscore number and factorial after the quotation marks. And to finish, we had the else if the number between is too big, then we display. The number is too big, so we'll let the int. So we add an else, and inside we put a console.writeLine with the sentence, the number is too big. We are getting out of the int. If we run the program displays. You want the factorial of the number 5, for example. We will enter it. And it displays the factorial of 5 is 120. If we try for 6, for example, we need to restart the program, type 6, then enter, and it displays us the factorial of 6 is 720. 720 is the factorial of 6. Then our program worked perfectly. Now we will test, for example, for a number greater than 31, I will restart the program and I will type 50. What will happen? Well, we enter the case of the else, it does not fulfill the condition of the if. Then it will display us directly that the number is too big. Last thing before concluding, you can also put directly the for in the if to avoid executing the loop for the cases that the program does not manage. I didn't do it here to avoid confusing you too much. We mixed ifs with for, etc. We are going easy so that you understand as much as possible. But what you have to remember is that as a developer, you have to worry about the operations that you ask to the compiler. Here, we will make it work more, when actually we can go directly to the else. Can you see? And when we make it work more, it will ask for more energy of memory, etc. And our purpose is to create programs as optimized as possible and to ask the computer to do the least operations possible. See you next time in a new video.